Inside the Triangle, the Decker Truckline Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside the Triangle. I am your host, Darin Ladlie, and today we have a special guest. It is Sergeant Robert Wittkowski. He is with the Iowa D.O.T. Robert, how long have you been with the Iowa D.O.T.?
This May, it'll be 10 years.
So were you a police officer before that and then went into the DOT, or how'd you get into this line of work?
I was. A little history on myself here. I was a automotive and diesel mechanic for about 10 years before I decided to become a cop, and I got my break into police work with the Marion County Sheriff's Office down in Knoxville. I was there for almost 6 years, and I was going through the paper one day, saw an ad for the Iowa D.O.T. for the state, and I'm like, boy, maybe I can give that a try, and the rest is history.
So I know DOT, and I'm a former driver, not a former driver. I'm still a driver out there. And, they think you're out there. I'll give you an example. So, God, this was Christmas Eve, I believe it was. Had to have been probably around 1998. I was out. I was bull hauling at the time. And I got pulled over. And I'm thinking, it's Christmas Eve. Go home to your family. Why are you out here bugging me? But you're just out there doing your job. I mean, how do you deal with things like that?
Oh, sure. One thing that I love about being at the DOT versus when I was a deputy, the folks that I deal with, every single one of you are just a hard-working person trying to make money, put food on the table for your family, and 95% of the time, everybody has a great attitude. It is very rare for me or at the DOT as a whole to hear stories from officers of what you would say a driver that gave you a hard time. They understand that we're doing our job out there just like they are. And as long as everybody has everything in order, it makes the process well. And it is refreshing to me. And it really is when every day I don't get to see the same person. I may talk to a guy from New York one day and hear his stories about where he's from, because we're spending 30 minutes to a couple hours with these folks, depending on what level of inspection, and kind of hear their background and get to know somebody. And it's neat. The next person, they're from California, just from one end to the other, and it's pretty good. So the ones that think we have bad rap or give us a hard time, it's pretty few and far in between. But we're no different than the guys and gals out on the road, just trying to make a living doing our job and keeping the highways safe for everybody.
Well said. Well said. So I guess one thing I've noticed over the years, I've been doing this, I've been driving in the trucking industry for 36 years. A lot of the DOT inspection stations have changed. A lot of them have disappeared. Are you guys out on the road more then, or are you mainly just working in certain areas? Because, you got the big east-west chicken coops we called on I-80, but the ones on 35 South down by Osceola have closed down, the ones up by Iowa going out. I mean, how are you guys dealing with the shutdowns of some of these stations?
So the only one that's really been shut down is the one at Story that got tore down there just south of Ames. Mm-hmm. The one down in Clark County, what we call the Clark scale down there, it is open. It's just not open, I guess, as much as we'd always like to see. We do spend a little bit more time on the road than what we used to, because inadvertently everybody's not always on the interstate. So we got to go to where the traffic is, and some days we're able to man that scale, and some days we're not. Now, this summer, the east and westbound there on I-80, the big scales at Dallas and Jasper, those have been undergoing a renovation. And so those have been closed all summer, but they're about to finish the renovations, and we should be opening them up here shortly.
So what kind of renovations have you been doing down there?
So they got a facelift. Those buildings are, and a facelift on the inside. So those buildings are 30 years old. Wow. And so they got fresh paint, new counters for us officers and drivers, new equipment as far as where we sit at the scale head, some new technology as far as coming up the ramp, a plate reader. So just making the facility a little bit nicer for everyone that has to spend time inside of there.
So as Decker Truck Line and most of the larger companies, we use Prepass, Easy Pass, for the inspections. How do you guys use that inside the building there? I mean, how is that signal sent to you? Do you see every truck that comes through? How does that work?
So there's a transponder roughly about a mile before the scale, and it picks up the signal from that truck, and it goes to a computer in the scale, and it lets us know that this truck line is coming and they got the green light. So it either shows us that they need to pull in or that they get a go. And we'll see that since it's about a mile out, roughly a minute ahead of time. So when it comes up and it says Decker Truck Lines Unit 7205, then we'll be able to see Decker go by and that they didn't have to pull in. So it's sent to us, I guess to answer your question there, just in an electronic format on the computer.
Do you actually does it weigh us when we go underneath those? Is there a weigh in motion there?
We do have a weigh in motion. Exactly where it's at, that I'm unsure of.
Super secret. Okay.
Well, I honestly don't know. I can't remember if it's right at the beginning of the scale or up the ramp, but I know we do have a weigh-in motion. I just can't remember exactly where it's placed at there.
So when a driver is chosen to come up and you want to go through an inspection, what is a DOT inspection?
First and foremost, the DOT inspection, it's meant to check all the aspects of safety to ensure that the equipment, the driver are safe while they're out there on the road with the motoring public. But it can involve an examination of the driver's license, your medical card. We're going to check to make sure that there's no drugs or alcohol. We're going to check the logbook, make sure the driver's wearing the seat belt. We want to check all the vehicle inspection reports, the annual for the truck and trailer. We can, depend on the level of inspection, we can check the brakes, the cargo securement, coupling devices, your drive line, exhaust, frames, fuels, the lights, steering, suspension, tires, the trailer body, your rims, hubs, wipers, your electrical system, and then the engine compartment, make sure everything's good in there. So it can be just as small as the paperwork to going all the way through and checking all the components of the truck and trailer.
So how many levels of inspections are there?
We actually have 8. Currently, we have 8 levels of inspection.
Now, a level 1 is just basic paperwork, I'm sure, and level 8 is we're going to crawl underneath this thing with a fine-tooth comb and go through everything.
No, and let me, if you want, I can explain these to you, the 8 levels. Okay, perfect. So our level 1, that's going to be our complete inspection. That's what, in Iowa, any DOT officer can perform. Mainly we do those at the scale. We can do some of them roadside because of complete inspection. That's where we go all through the paperwork. We do a walk-around inspection, check the lights. Then we also go underneath, check the brakes, suspension, and every single component. Then we have a level 2, which is the walk-around inspection, and that's exactly what it sounds. It's just a walk-around. So we always check the paperwork, and then we do a walk-around without going underneath the vehicle. So anything we can see from the top side, we're going to inspect. A level 3, that's a check of just the paperwork only. So when we tell a driver, hey, we want to do a level 3 inspection, what we expect to check there is the CDL medical card, logbook, registrations for the truck and trailer, the annual inspections, your UCR and IFTA. And as long as all the paperwork's okay, that level 3, we go down the road. Now that level 3 is incorporated in the level 2 and level 1 inspection. The next one we got a level 4 inspection, and this is meant to specifically just target one item on a CMV. So for an example, and I've only had it one time that I can remember in the past 10 years, Volvo's had a issue with their steering gear, and they needed us to check every Volvo out there that was a certain year against the VIN number. Okay. And if the VIN number had a certain digit in it, then we had to place it out of service because they were wanting to replace this component.
So was that something that came from the state, or was that from the manufacturer?
So it would have come out from the manufacturer, and they would have contacted the feds on that, or it might have been through NHTSA.
Okay.
But so the factory is the one who says, hey, we have a defective part here that we need to make sure that we get all these trucks checked. And one of the easiest ways here for them was to have DOT across the U.S. in every state, not just Iowa, be stopping these trucks and get the drivers and companies informed that, hey, this needs to be replaced. So on that level of inspection, it doesn't get counted against the company. We find that default item, which we're looking for, and it's just to get it taken care of and make everything safe.
Good idea.
Then we have a level 5. A level 5 inspection, it's going to actually be like a level 1 inspection where we go underneath, we check every single item, but then there's no driver. So where we normally see these at is what we call a terminal check, and we're doing these mainly on buses, on passenger carrying vehicles.
Okay.
Next, we have a level 6 inspection, and that is for radiological shipments. So anytime they're using radiation, it's a radiation shipment for hazardous materials. Mm-hmm. Those we have our hazmat specialist. They're the ones, they have to go through a special class to be able to do that level 6.
Okay.
And a level 7 is a jurisdictional mandated inspection that does not meet the requirements of any other level of inspection. An example of this would include programs such as school buses, limousine, taxis, hotel shuttles, whether it's intra-state or intra-provincial operations. These are conducted by CVSA inspectors or other government employees or jurisdictional approved contractors, and special training requirements have to be determined by each jurisdiction. I've never seen a level 7 inspection.
Okay.
And then a level 8 inspection. This is new, and this is a electronic inspection. It's conducted wirelessly while the vehicle is in motion going down the interstate.
All right. Now, how does that happen?
So we have not incorporated those. That is completely new. Iowa has not taken initiative on that yet. I guess we might not have the equipment to do it yet. But so if you have Prepass, a company like Decker does, and you just keep going by the scale, and you don't get the good inspections that you want, mm-hmm. This level 8 will do the inspection while you go down the road. So you pass a scale with that technology. It sends it from the truck to the computer or whatever technology is inside, and it checks things while going down the road. Now, how it does it, when it does it, I don't know. It's something brand new that we haven't got into yet. So
we've switched to Geotab, and I could probably see with Geotab it might be able to work with something like that because it's through a cellular network. So they could probably do a Wi-Fi connection and get their log updates, and you could get a lot of the ECM updates. Everything like that could be just automatically downloaded to your system, is what I'm assuming is going to happen in the future.
And I'm betting you're right on track. So it's something like that. I haven't studied into them a lot because it's nothing that we're doing at this time, but I know that 8th level of inspection is out there.
So normally a DOT inspection is performed by either a DOT officer. I think a highway patrolman can perform a DOT inspection. Is that correct?
In the state of Iowa, some of them can.
Okay. One of the biggest concerns we have here in our company and in the industry nationwide is CSA. So a lot of drivers don't understand who can give them the warning even that goes on your CSA. Who can give a driver CSA points?
So the CSA points actually come off the inspection and what violation is recorded. In the state of Iowa, it is going to be a DOT officer or motor vehicle enforcement officer and some of the Iowa State Patrol. And the reason I say some is because Iowa is the lead MXAP agency. We get training from the federal government, which makes us trained in the MXAP procedure so we can do these inspections. We also have some state troopers that do this same thing. So they go through the same schooling that the DOT does, and that's why some state troopers in Iowa are allowed to do it, but not all of them, because not all of the state patrol participates. They have an actual MXAP team. And so those folks on the MXAP team, they go through the same North American standard A-side and B-side class. That way they can do these inspections. But now in some other states, because I am one of the federal trainers for the National Training Center and for FMCSA, other states, they do allow city cops, deputies, DOT, civilians to get that certification. I have taught in Arizona quite a bit, Arizona, it can be city cops, it can be deputies, it can be civilians that are associated with the Arizona Department of Transportation. So they go and get a wide variety of everybody in the state of Arizona. But in Iowa, we limit it to MVE and the Iowa State Patrol.
Because we do have terminals all over. We have a terminal in Missoula. We have one in Hammond, Indiana, and down in Bessemer. So our drivers are all over. So as you stated, every jurisdiction is going to be different. But here in Iowa, it is, yes, just those limited highway patrol and you guys.
Yeah, and then to add a little more to that, as far as the CSA points, if you get stopped, let's say in the state of Iowa by a city officer, and you get a ticket, whether it's for a light out, speeding, not wearing a seatbelt, whatever it is, or you get a warning from them, doesn't necessarily have to be a ticket, that does not affect CSA points. That'll affect your individual driving record, but not CSA points, because the only time that the CSA points are going to be affected is if it is on a inspection report that's then uploaded into the federal system.
The biggest issue we always dealt with when the CSA first came out was, in fact, this just happened probably about 3 months ago. I was talking to a driver and he was upset because we have a scorecard bonus. One of the criterias for points is CSA points. And he said, well, I only got a warning ticket. Well, I understand that, but that warning ticket is points against you and me. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. Basically, I had to run his CSA to show him that, yes, it is CSA points, even though it's only a warning. And he had a hard time understanding that.
And yeah, you're 100% correct on those inspection reports that we do, whether it's a warning or a citation, the points are the same. It does not matter.
Well, and it is a good tool. I mean, back when I was recruiting, this was years ago when CSA first came in, you could see a pattern. One of the patterns we saw was like one gentleman he had 3 major moving violations. They were all warning tickets on his CSA, but sooner or later, this is going to become a serious problem that's not a warning ticket, and it's going to be an accident. I mean, basically, we're not going to hire a driver like that, which is good.
Yeah, yep. You want to keep the safest drivers you can behind your wheels, absolutely.
So for a driver, what's the best way to prepare for an inspection? I know when I was driving full-time, I'll never forget this. It was in Indiana. I had a DOT officer pull me over, and I was just trudging along, really not doing nothing. And I said, why? And she was a really nice lady. And she told me, she says, well, your truck is so clean and nice that she said, I knew you wouldn't get any points. So she did the inspection on me. But I know years ago, one of the things, if you talk to an officer, if you saw a truck and he had trash all over his dashboard and all that, I mean, that was just asking for an inspection. I mean, how would a driver prepare not to be inspected?
As far as not to be inspected for a driver to prepare, your story kind of nailed on the head there. If you have a clean vehicle and everything looks nice and tidy, and you're giving the appearance that everything is in order. If you have the vehicle that is dirty and you got the trash all up on the dash that you can see, and you've got a mud flap that's halfway bolted on, a bumper that's maybe bent that you haven't taken care of. I mean, it's just little indicators that you look at and you may be like, well, I'm going to pick that one over that one. And I've stopped both vehicles, the ones that are clean and shiny, and be like, all right, we're just going to get through this one, and found a ton of violations. And then I've stopped the other one where you think you'd get a ton of violations and you don't get any. So it's kind of luck of the draw there for us, but the best way to prepare for it, and I cannot stress it enough, do a good pre-trip and do a valid pre-trip. Don't just get on your Qualcomm or your Geotab or your PeopleNet and punch in, I'm on my pre-trip inspection, sit there for 7 or 8 minutes, and then start driving. I mean, you got to get out. You got to check those lights and the tires. Granted, stuff can happen as you go down the road. We understand that. A light can work in the morning and not work at the night. A tire can be aired up in the morning and be flat by noon. But if you do that good pre-trip, you're going to be more prepared for that inspection because, one, everything's good. And the other side of that coin, too, on that pre-trip inspection, check your paperwork. Make sure that you have a current registration for the truck and a current annual inspection. Same thing for the trailer. Your IFTA paperwork is up to date and everything. There is nothing that is more time consuming than having to keep running back and forth to the vehicle to try to find the correct registration. And to find out maybe you don't have a registration, then we got to go out and we got to verify the VIN on the door and then on the trailer. So having the current paperwork and doing a good pre-trip is the best advice I can give you to prepare for an inspection.
And we stress big time. It's where you're going to find anything, like you said, lights once in a while, yes, they're going to burn out. They can, like you said, start in the morning and be out by afternoon, but you got to do a proper walk around underneath and check everything out before you leave. What happens if you do find a violation?
Me as far as an officer? Or?
Yeah, so let's say you're inspecting my truck and you find a violation. What would happen?
So if I find a violation, it's going to go down on the visas, obviously. Any violation that we find, we have to record it. So we're going to put it on there, and then depending on the severity of that violation and officer discretion is going to determine whether a citation will be issued or not. If it is a out of service violation, then the out of service has to be addressed. Now, if it's a hours of service violation, then we will put on there how long that you are out of service for before you can continue. If it's let's say a license issue, your license isn't valid, whether you did not get your medical card renewed in time and you've been downgraded, if your license got suspended, or even if it expired. On that, obviously, if you don't have a valid license, that'd be an out-of-service issue. And on that one, there's not going to be a time on there that says, okay, you can go in 3 hours, because we don't know how soon it's going to be till you get a valid license. In that case, you're going to be valid to go again once you get your situation taken care of with your license.
So what about like breaks out of adjustment, a flat tire, a cracked hub? What do you do in a situation like that?
Oh, sure. If that violation, the equipment violation, is out of service, then it's going to be the same way we'd address any other violation. It's going to be listed on the inspection. If the officer chooses to write a citation or not, they can. And then you're going to be out of service until all the out of service items are taken care of. So if it's just a flat tire, you might be able to get a road service out there and get it taken care of in an hour. If it's a break in the frame, you may be there a lot longer, and in the kind of the worst case scenario, sometimes they have to go out of there on flatbeds.
So just dealing with drivers, what is the most common violation you probably see? Just driver violations.
Just driver, it'd be a toss between the two of them. It's going to be between speed and a seatbelt.
Seatbelt's still a major one, huh?
It is. Yeah. I'm just not talking one company here. We're not talking just Decker. We're talking all over. Mm-hmm. It's seat belts and speed are probably the two most common driver violations that we have. Coming in behind that, I would have to say, would be the paperwork not being right and the hours of service. Now, if we'd have had this question 3 or 4 years ago, I'd have put hours of service at the top of the page. But since we introduced those electronic logbooks, the ERODs, the ELDs, boy, that has made a difference with the hours of service violations.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, and it's so much easier. I mean, you can't run illegal. I mean, you can, but it's almost impossible. And I mean, I'm old school. I'm in the days where you would, you know what I mean.
I get it.
Yeah, but nowadays with the ELD, so it has to have made your guys' job a lot easier with ELDs, hasn't it?
In some aspects, yes. I'll agree. What makes it a lot easier is when the driver can push a button and send me their logs. It's wonderful. They are always legible. They're easy to read. They're always in the same format, and I can share them with you. You know what I mean? It's wonderful. That makes it so much easier. The part that sometimes isn't easy, if a driver isn't familiar with them and trying to get them sent to me. But that was more in the beginning when when the inception of the ELDs came. But now, with everybody kind of getting used to them and having to use them, it sure does make it a lot nicer.
Well, is it not a ticket and CSA points if they don't know how to send you the logs?
Not if you don't know how, but if they do not transfer.
Okay.
So the ELDs have to transfer up to those web services, and if they do not transfer, then it is a violation, absolutely.
Yeah, because we're making a transition right now from OmniTrax, and we're going to GeoTab. And we're in the process, I think I checked today, and we're about 1/3 into GeoTab. And it's quite a difference between the two, and it's a learning curve. I'll tell you that. I'm trying to learn it myself, but I think it's going to be a better thing for both of us, you and us. So what are the most common equipment violations that you probably find?
On the equipment, the first one that sticks out to me is brake hose chafing. When we're doing our walk-arounds or our level ones, we find that more often than not. And for those who might not be familiar with what that violation is, the brake hose chafing is whether it's your tubing, your red and blue tubing that runs from the back of the cab to the trailer, or they have that same tubing underneath in the frame channels of the truck and the trailer, or your black rubber hoses, your brake hoses. Anytime that those hoses or tubing are rubbing on another piece of equipment and it creates a flat spot in that hose or that tube, that's what we consider brake hose chafing. Mm-hmm. That can lead to an out of service condition on those, but that one jumps out at me most of all is the brake hose chafing. After that, I'd say I'd have to throw brakes out of adjustment into the equipment. We still have quite a bit of brakes out of adjustment we find during our level one season, and then it would have to go down to lighting and tire violations for equipment.
So speaking, and this is coming from the driver's side, so I've always wondered this. I think according to, correct me if I'm wrong, but under Iowa, in order to be able to officially adjust those slack adjusters, you have to have a certain certification. Am I correct?
I would have to look into that and get back to you.
Okay. Nowadays, because we would get nailed for that, and like, well, it's automatic slack adjusters, and we're not qualified to adjust these slack adjusters, so it's like we're kind of in a catch-22. And I didn't know if you guys were affiliated with that certification or not.
I haven't seen a certification to adjust those brakes, and it's not something that we would check for roadside.
Okay. So if I got caught without brakes out of adjustment, I could go underneath there, put them back into adjustment, take my warning or whatever ticket, and be on my way, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
And lighting is a big one you see. And is it mainly like brake lights? The newest one I've been seeing is the ABS light. Do you see a lot of those?
Quite a bit. The ABS light is, for me, it's one thing that I always check, and I stress that when I teach these North American standard classes, because that ABS light, it has to be a certain color. It has to have ABS written on the light itself. And if it does not have ABS on the light itself, then there has to be a sticker within 6 inches of the light indicating that that is the ABS light. So I don't know if you're seeing the light out as much, or maybe it's not meeting the requirements of 39355E, where it says it has to have that light or the sticker within it, within that 6 inches. But the more common lights, I guess I couldn't pick one out more than the other. No more a headlight than a tail light is or a reverse light being out. I mean, it's just luck of the draw, but lighting violations, we seem to have a pile.
Well, so we have on our trailers, mainly on the reefer trailers, now we have a low tire warning light that if your tire drops below a certain air pressure, the light will light up and let you know. Could that put you into violation if that light wasn't working?
On that one, it's not going to. So under 393.11, I'm sorry, the federal code, 393.11 gives us the table that tells us all the required lighting that is on a commercial motor vehicle. And on that table, like I said, it's all the required lights. So those are the only ones that we are worried about. Any extra light that a driver puts on or that a vehicle comes equipped with, like that low tire light that you're seeing, if that one's out, it is not going to concern us at all.
I guess my next area I wanted to get into a little bit is weight restrictions. So we run APUs on our truck. What is the rules concerning weight when it comes to the APU in Iowa? Is there a variance?
So you're going to get an extra 550 pounds for that APU.
Now, does that have to be just on the drives, or can it be just in gross anywhere?
It's going to be on the gross initially, because we're going to give you that extra 550. But if that extra because the APU is on the power unit, we want to see that extra $550 up front, not back on the trailer tandems.
And one other issue that I'd like to speak about is, and I get into this with some of our drivers sometimes, is we run most of the time 12,005 on our steers. Okay. Our tires are rated for the higher weight and our axles are. So we're good to go on that, correct? Because we can go up to 13.2. Is that?
So as far as weight goes, you're going to get 20,000 per axle. So you can go up to 20,000 on that front axle, but you're limited to your tire weight rating.
Yep.
So if your tires are only good for 14,000 pounds, 7,000 each tire, that's all you're getting up front is that 14,000. If you have the standard tires, which are 6175, you're only good for 12,350 up there. So each axle in Iowa is good for 20, but you are limited to your tire weight rating.
So anything you'd like to say to all our drivers out there, or drivers period, out in the road today?
Boy, we really appreciate what you do. And I hope you've been hearing that all across the U.S., no matter where you are, and whether it's during this pandemic or not. If you're buying it in a storage because the truck got it to you. So we appreciate what you're doing out there, and just keep doing it. And folks, stay safe. Just stay safe, and good luck to y'all.
Well, thank you. And like I like to say, keep the shiny side up and the dirty side down. But I thank you, Sergeant, for getting with us today, and maybe we can do this again later on in the future.
Love to do it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
As always, thank you for listening to Inside the Triangle. Don't forget to subscribe to us on whatever platform you're listening on. That way you will know when the new episodes drop. And remember, submit your questions to podcast@deckermail.com, and you could be featured on one of our upcoming episodes. The best way to do this is to create a voice memo on your smartphone, record your question, and email it to podcast@deckermail.com. Once again, thank you for listening. Stay driven to be the best.